Do you ever wonder what was this inscription written in the Lord of the Rings? What is this language? What does it sound like? Some people even wondered, is this any sort of Arabic inscription or what? Let's find out from the movie at first.
Suitor's pain.
Welcome everyone and fellow brethren to TwoTrees.bt, a social platform for Lord of the Rings or Hobbit movies or Middle Earth or Tolkien fans from Bangladesh. Stay with us and inspire us. Today we are going to discuss
The languages of Middle Earth.
First of all, we start with 2 points. 1. Tolkien was an excellent lexicographer. He contributed and was a sub-editor of the Oxford Dictionary late in 1920. It indicates he had immense knowledge of vocabulary and grammar. The second and intriguing one is that Tolkien invented some languages at first, like Quenya, Noldorin, and Sindarin, and then plotted few storylines for providing these languages a meaning, life. He mentioned this in one of his letters very clearly.
The invention of language is the foundation. The stories are made rather to provide a world for the language than the rivers. To me, a name comes first and the story follows. I should have preferred to write in Elvish.
It was very much possible, as Tolkien was a brilliant philologist, and Tolkien did write and make languages all the time. He did compose around 12 to 15 languages in his whole lifetime, and most of them are enriched with good grammar and vocabulary. Many good researches and theses were published also in these languages. So we understand that the world created by Tolkien is full of languages, just like our real world. Many people later contributed to develop these languages further. Now, anyone can learn these languages from internet and resources are almost available and free. There are around 30 to 38 known languages related to Middle Earth. Not all of them are notable enough to mention here, but we can categorize them into some types like proto-languages created by Ainur or Valar, Elvish or Quendi languages, Mannish and Dwarvish languages, languages of various entities like ant, hobbits, wolf, birds, languages of dark forces, and others. The languages of Elvish or Quendi people are divided into several dialects like primitive Quendian, Quenya, Banyarin, Noldorin Quenya, Nandurin, Telrin, Sindarin. But the most famous and enriched ones are Quenya and Sindarin. Tengwan is the written form or alphabets to write down Quendi languages developed by the famous Fëanor. Quenya is the common tongue of the elves who reached the blessed realms of Valinor through the great journey of west. On the other hand, Sindarin was used by the Telrin elves who were left behind in Beleriand. Both languages were used by the elders, the first awakened elves who journeyed to the west. The common Mannish tongues were usually used by Edain or men. Some ancient forms like Taliska and Adunaic were used by the first houses of men, like the house of Beor or the house of Hador. Adunaic was used by the men of Numenor during the Second Age, but after the great fall of Numenor, Western was the main Numenorian language. Other notable Mannish languages used in the Second Age were Haladin, languages of man from Brethil or Eriador, or the languages of Easterlings. Some notable languages of man in the Third Age were Dunlandish, Rohanese, language of Del, Hobbitish, Storish. Khuzdul is the secret language of the Dwarvish people, constructed by the Vala Ole himself. Khuzdul is so secretive that only a few among the dwarves know how to write or teach them. Its deep guttural sound make it challenging for non-dwarves to understand or pronounce. Another secretive and sign language of Dwarvish people was Iglishmak. Mysterious languages were there too in Middle-earth, like the tongues used by the Valar or Ainur, known as Valarin, or the Antish language used by the Ant. Antish was so old and complex that it remained and developed only by the ants themselves. Some other languages were like Wolf tongues or thrush languages related to birds were also mentioned somewhere. The last segment, related to the dark entities, has some sort of languages like Black speech, Orcish, Goblin languages, or the languages of trolls. The Black speech was developed by the Dark Lord Sauron in Second Age and used by his subordinates in a slightly modified way. The only example of pure Black speech in the inscription of the famous One Ring, which is the first 2 lines of a verse about the rings of power. The other sets we found available now are movies adaptation by some linguistic in Lord of the Rings or Hobbit trilogy. The famous inscription in the ring is Ash Nugs Durbatuluk, Ash Nugs Gimbatul, Ash Nugs Trakatuluk, Ah Drozum Ishi Kimpatul, meaning one ring to roll them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. So next time, try to memorize this Black speech and make your friends surprised by uttering this in most guttural and hideous way possible. Good luck.